Hello, welcome to another dyno video. Today's machine, a very imaginatively named Coupe by Fiat, called the Fiat Coupe. This particular Fiat Coupe is the big cheese. Right colour for it as well. This is the 20 valve turbo. In fact, this is a 20 valve turbo plus model, which means it has a 6-speed gearbox and some different wheels, and I'm guessing those skirts. Now, the interesting thing about this car, being a 20 valve turbo, is that it is not like a Volkswagen where it's got 5 valves per cylinder and a 4-cylinder engine. This is a 5-cylinder engine. This is a 20 valve twin overhead cam, 4 valve per cylinder, 5-cylinder engine with a turbo. And that means it makes very nice noises. It makes it a very exciting car. Yes, I know there's a little spider on the bonnet. I've seen it. There are no boring 5-cylinder cars. Okay, there are some boring 5-cylinder cars, but most of them are not. And this is one of the more exciting ones. The noise this thing makes is blood-curdling, as is the performance. I don't know anything about these, like I say. In fact, I've never driven one. Today is the first time I've ever driven one in my 42 years on the planet. This is quick. The owner has brought the car in because he was concerned about the handling. The torque steer, basically. You put your foot down and it tries to veer all over the place and kill you. Well, I drove it and thought it wasn't actually that bad, but I can see what he's saying. It is kind of pitching and lurching about because it's having to deal with a lot of torque through the front wheels. Book power figures on this car: 220 horsepower, or 217, but whatever, rounding it up to the metric, 220 horsepower through the front wheels, and that's with a 5-cylinder engine, so it's torquey, and with a turbocharger. You're asking those front wheels to do a lot. Now, if you're watching this video and you're thinking, I just want to see the results, stop talking, you can skip along the bottom. There are chapters, you can jump to the chapter. But if you're going to do that, do me a favour. You haven't paid for this video, it's free. At least do the like and subscribe thing. I don't normally ask people to do it, but this takes a lot of effort to make these. And you haven't paid for it, unless you have, in which case, thank you. When I see these cars online, I kind of think, well, they look alright. But when you see them in the flesh, that is a striking looking car. That is, seriously, that looks amazing. To access the engine, you need to lift up the entire front of the car. And this is, well, I say it's a heavy bonnet. It helps when the gas struts don't fight against you. In fact, it's so heavy, there's a catch here, which I'm not going to push now because that would hurt. But there's a catch there to stop it coming back down. And there it is. Well, that's packaging, isn't it? Now, as far as engines go, I have to be honest, this one is... Why is there a bulb there? I'll give that back to him. So anyway, yes, as engines go, I actually really like this one. 5-cylinder engines are great. They have a good power overlap, which means there is always a cylinder doing some work. And this one is a short-stroke engine. It's about 82mm bore by about 75mm stroke. It's a snappy engine. The throttle is snappy, the noise is intoxicating, and because it's a 5-cylinder, you do still have some low-down torque. The only other 5-cylinder I've put on here, other than Rusty Rose Adventures van, which less said about that one, the better. Hello, Max. The only other 5-cylinder I've put on here that's comparable is actually our old Ford S-Max, which had the Ford Focus ST Volvo engine in it. That was a 2.5, a lot lazier. That was a lot more. It wasn't a revvy engine like this one. It didn't have the character of this one, to be honest. It was smooth and it was gutsy. Probably more torquey than this, but this has zip and spark and fizz that the Volvo lump didn't have. I don't know what this is going to produce. The book figures, as I say, about 220 horsepower roughly, I think 6,000 revs, 230-ish pound-feet of torque, but 2,500. They've worked their turbo technology. They've got a short-stroke engine with low-down torque. That is the magic combination. Yeah, I can't really tell you much about the engine other than that because I don't know anything about it. All I know is if he ever asks me to do the cam belt on it, I'm going to politely decline. Now, we're potentially back to the fun and games we had with my old Maserati on here. That is, this has an intercooler. It's a turbocharged car with an intercooler. And if you watch the Maserati 3200 GT dyno we did a little while ago, you'll remember I had some issues with temperatures. I couldn't get the temperatures down. It was about 18 degrees near ambient, but the Maserati has a big radiator in the middle and then an intercooler either side. And I only have one fan. Now, this car has intercooler as well, and most cars have them in front of the radiator, meaning one fan is fine because it blows through the whole lot. But No, this car is more of a performance car and the intercooler is mounted on the side. That's not a massive problem though, because the radiator is very close to it. One fan will be on the corner of the car, means the intercooler and the radiator will get picked up. The radiator looks to be an uprated alloy one anyway, and in all the driving I did in this car out on the road today, oh, that clip's undone. That's because it's broken. This car's only done 54,000 miles. It is all standard as far as I know. The only difference, it has a cat-back stainless exhaust, which is quite big, it has to be said. It's quite a big diameter pipe. That might make a difference. Whether I put this in modified or not, I think that depends on how it performs. Some performance exhausts do nothing, others make quite a big difference, but it is cat-back. It still has a standard downpipe and cat and everything like that. As far as boost goes, no idea. I assume it's standard. He thinks it's standard. He's had another one before, so he's got a good frame of reference. Well, the only way to find out is to run it up, which means we get to hear it, and that's a good thing. Well, okay, I think something might be going on here. I smell something. That's a fair bit higher than it's meant to be, probably about 30 horsepower. It has a beefier exhaust, as I mentioned. That will not account for that much. And torque, it's gained torque as well, but the graph is pretty nasty actually. But he did say it had a running problem. But running problem or not, it's just produced way more than it's meant to. But yeah, turbocharged cars, eh? You know, it's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell. It's taken me back to the Fiat 124 Spider that I dynoed a little while ago. The power loss figure's a bit high. 25, it ain't, yeah. That will be fudging it a little bit, but it shouldn't really make a difference on the way up. However, I might reinflate the tyres because I have a theory that this car might not be quite as powerful as that, but I have to test it in order to know. And because I'm honest, I'm going to share the theory with you. I think there is a chance this car is a very torquey machine, lots of grunt. Now, I think what's happening is the car is trying to climb out of the dyno onto the front roller. Now I have a wheel chock on the back wheel. It is strapped down tight. It's pulled down really, really tight for a front wheel drive car with a limited slip diff with 250 horsepower potentially. It's actually quite stable on here. But if it climbs up onto that front roller and removes the drag on the back roller, it means you've only got one contact patch there, or 1.5 contact patches. But when you come off the power, it settles down back into both of them, meaning you have 2 contact patches. So it's possible that it's getting a free ride on the way up and then having to deal with it all on the way down. So I think what I'm going to do is bump them back up to the 38, 39 PSI they're supposed to be, which sounds bloody high, but apparently that's the factory setting. They're at about 28 at the moment. As I say, we were doing it to do some experimenting with handling. What it basically needs is new tyres, but they're actually quite difficult to find in this size. So I'm going to stick some more air in there and then we'll do another run and see what happens. As things stand, that looks like a remapped, a remapped ECU or a chipped ECU or a tweaked boost, and either with some kind of sensor that's a little dicky or not an amazing map. It drives really well, so I don't think it's a questionable map. But let's put some air in it and see if that makes a difference. 225 45 R16W rated. Odd size apparently. Clamber aboard, yellow peril, which I think is what this car's called on Instagram. And it is yellow inside, look at that. But we're not interested in that. One of the funny things about it, starter button. This is standard apparently. So yeah, round 2, and we'll find out what happens. As I say, we've now got 39 PSI in the front tyres. if it is my tyre theory, if I'm right, then it will be massaging the figures slightly, because it'll be giving it more of a loss on the way down. 25 horsepower on the way down is quite high, and it'll be more on the way down, but it won't be having an effect on the way up because it's trying to climb out the rollers. So I've strapped the clamps down. I've managed to get one more click on them, but they're already, you could play a tune on them, to be honest. We'll see what happens. It's a shame it's got no boost gauge in here. Right, I'm going to go straight for second. The fuel gauge is Italian, so it just does what it wants. Also, we have, again, got egg-shaped tyres. Into fourth. Biting. Foot is now welded to the floor. My God, this thing sounds amazing. Gonna rev it higher this time. Okay, I bottled it. I mean, it felt fine. Oh, it was, I've just seen the graph. That's about right. Well, yeah, this is going to be another high one. It's definitely more than standard. Okay, the graph is ironed out. Yeah, it's not oh, that's a perfect graph. Let's go and have a look together. You'll have to excuse the noise and everything. Doing it live. Oh wow, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen here. My ball-busting dyno, the one that always makes life hard for people. Okay, so I'm having to put my thumb over this one because I'm an amateur and I don't want to dox the guy because I've left his name on it, but I want to save this graph. It's a good one. So that is pretty conclusive, isn't it, I would say. The graph last time was iffy because of the tyre pressures were wrong, and I don't think it was strapped down tight enough, if I'm honest. I thought it was tight. It was tight, but now it is bloody tight. Yeah, that's a lot more realistic, and that's a good figure. But I don't believe it's remapped. I think that's a standard ECU, but do we say that exhaust is making a difference? It's quite a big exhaust, it has to be said. I think that's going to have to go in the modified category. 220 is the book figure, 232 on the nose, and 212 pound-foot of torque at 5,000. So the torque is coming in a lot higher. The torque is coming in here. This is the peak. I mean, it's coming in here. This is turbo lag. That bit there. Hilarious turbo lag. The peak torque, actually, from Fiat it should be about here. So it suggests that it is a little bit tardy coming in there. Yeah, that's a slightly strange one. Because torque is this graph on the side. So 212 it's made, which is up here. And in standard, it should be about 2. It's actually lost torque. It should be about 230, and it should come in earlier. So it has lost a bit of torque, but it has got the power. That's almost a perfect turbo graph, to be honest. Well, apart from this bit. So I don't know if there are any differences, any things that have to be tweaked on these engines, but it has had a turbo recently. The old turbo failed. It's had a new turbo fitted, a standard one, I believe. I can't tell you any more than that. And the best thing you can do is go and follow the guy on the gram, because he'll be able to tell you the spec of the car. But I'm going to say standard ECU, but I think that exhaust is making a difference. You would think I would have learnt, well, two things. Stop putting the guy's name on the screen. But secondly, after the Maserati debacle, you would imagine I'd learnt about intercooler temperatures and not letting them get too hot. Seems not. Because our Fiat Coupe 20 valve turbo here just pulled this out of the bag. Black is what it's just done. Red is the one it did before. It's just found an extra everything. It did 230, well, it was 232 on the nose, but it's now decided that's 231.9. And now it's done 243. And the difference? I left the fan on it again. Honestly, me and turbo cars, or more powerful turbo cars, it's completely new to me. You might think, oh, he's a mechanic, he must know all about all cars. No, not at all. You can be a specialist in a type of car. I can know loads of stuff. I can know tons about these. That's not Clement. I could know tons about these and absolutely bugger all about these. Turbos are new to me. I don't really play with turbo cars much. And all the turbo cars I've owned before have been turbo diesels and crap like that. This is actually a powerful turbocharged car. I don't normally play with those, and intercooler temperatures make a huge difference. It's happened twice. It's happened on the Maserati, and now it's happened on this. You can lose a lot of power if you don't get cold air to your intercooler. Who knew? The bigger question is, why is our friend the Fiat Coupe producing an extra 25 odd horsepower over what it's supposed to? Is it just the big exhaust? Well, I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe you're a Fiat Coupe expert. Maybe you know why that's happening. I would stick my neck out and go, oh, it might be my dyno. But if you go on the website, www.ihaveansm.com, because I do, you will see there are plenty of cars there in the production class, bog standard cars, that do not make the book figure. It's probably more on there that don't than do. He's on about modifying it, remapping it. I wouldn't touch it.